Hey guys, welcome back. So today is day 2 of the domain and range, and today's objective is I can identify the domain and range of a graph. Now go ahead and write that down. All right, now 1, 2, and 3 are directly from the last one, the domain and range day 1. So I'm going to let you guys try these on your own, and then I'm going to go over them with you. Go ahead and do that right now. All right, guys, so now for the domain for number 1, we know that the domain are all the x values. We have 4 x values, which is 2, 3, another 3, and 4. So since there's 2 3s, we only write it once. We put the 4, so there's 3 that are really in the domain. The range are all the y values, and we want to start with the smallest one. The smallest one is -1. Then we got 0, then 1, then 2. All right, so the next part of this is asks you is this a function or not? And this one is not a function because you can see that the domain repeats, which is the x values. Those 2 x values have 3's in them, so they repeat, therefore it's not a function. Now for this next one, we have a domain of all these x values right here. So the domain would be -3, 0, 3, and 6. The range would be just one number because all of them are the same number, which is the number 4. So now in this one, we would say that it is a function because none of the domains repeat. Now you see that the range repeats, but the domain doesn't repeat, so it's still good. It's still a function. All right, so remember for number 3 that the domain is the first circle, which is 1, 4, and 7. So let me put those in there. And then the range would be 7, 6, and 8. Let me put those in there, right? And then in order it would be 6, 7, 8. And then this one would not be a function because we know that over here we have 2 arrows coming out of 1. That means it repeats because this would be the ordered pair 1, 7, and then 1, 6. Okay? If you need to press pause, go ahead. Otherwise, I'm going to the next slide. All right, now if the domain is the x-axis, which is how far to the left and to the right that the graph will go, all right, what do you think the range is? Go ahead and answer that. All right, so the range would then be the opposite, obviously, because if it's on the x-axis and it's the domain, the range would be the y-axis. How far to the left and right it goes, the opposite of that would be how far up and down it goes. Okay, so now let's go ahead and look at number 4. We're going to first identify the domain. And again, the domain is how far to the left and to the right that the graph will go. Since this arrow is pointing down and to the left, technically it's going to go to the left forever because it's an arrow. Okay, and then it's also going to go to the right forever. When a domain goes forever to the left and forever to the right, what you're going to say is all real numbers. Okay, now for the range, it's pretty much the same thing because this line is not only pointing to the left, it's also pointing downwards. So this line is going to go down forever, and then over here this line is going to go up forever. Therefore, the range is also all real numbers. Okay, now looking at number 5, the domain again is how far to the left and to the right. This graph will go to the left forever, all right? And then looking on this side, the graph will go to the right forever. Since again, it goes to the left and to the right forever, we're going to say it's all real numbers. But now the range is a little bit different this time because the arrows are both pointing up. There's no arrow pointing down. So there is a limit to how low this graph will go. How high it will go? It'll go up forever. So we know that it's going to be going up, 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 all the way to infinity. Now, how low does it go? Well, you can see that it stops at the number 1. So what we could say is that this number is all real numbers that are greater or equal to 1. Okay? So anywhere above 1. Now, how do I symbolize this in an inequality? Well, again, the range is y. So what we're going to do is we're going to put y is greater or equal to 1 because any ordered pair that would be on this line would have a y value that is greater or equal to 1. This right here is the point 0, 1, so it's greater or equal to 1. This point right here is 2, 3. 3 is greater than 1. But now if I try to find a y value that's less than 1, the graph is nowhere near there. So that's why we say it's greater or equal to 1. Okay? Now number 6 is also a little bit different because now we have a circle. There's no arrows, so we know that it's not going to go forever in any direction. All right. Now, what you need to do in this case is you want to see how far to the left and right that the graph goes. The graph is going to go up to -4. It is not going to go past that. Then we're going to see that it also goes up to +4 and it won't go past that. So in this case, we're going to have a compound inequality. It's actually going to be an and compound inequality because it's the middle, right? So what we'd say is that the domain is between -4 and +4 and including those. So if it's between -4 and +4, the compound inequality would wind up being -4 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 4. All right, and I already put it up here, but you can see that the range is the same thing. The highest it goes is 4, the lowest it goes is 4, so it's between -4 and 4. So in this case, the range, which is how high and how low it goes, will be -4 is less than or equal to y, which is less than or equal to 4. Okay, now press pause right now so that you can write all this down. All right, guys, so now for number 7, 8, and 9, I'm going to have you guys do those on your own, but I do want you to do one at a time. I'm going to let you do number 7, we'll go over it, then you do number 8, we'll go over it, so on and so forth. Now go ahead and do number 7, but here's a hint for you. The hint is that the range, which is how high and low it goes, is not all real numbers, and you can kind of see why. So go ahead and find the domain and range for number 7. All right, now for number 7, the domain is how far to the left and to the right that the graph goes. You can see that this arrow will go forever to the left, forever to the right. Therefore, the domain is all real numbers. Now, the range is different this time because it is not going to be all real numbers. The reason is because it will go down forever, but it will not go up forever. There's a maximum over here of the maximum is 4. It won't go more than 4. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, we know that any number under 4 would be a solution. So we're going to say all real numbers that are less than or equal to 4. Now, how does that look like an inequality? Well, we know that y would have to be less than or equal to 4 because the numbers that would go in here would be like 3, 2, 1, 0. Nothing above the y because then it wouldn't work in there. Okay? Now, the hint for number 8 is that the domain is not all real numbers. Go ahead and do that one now. All right, now for number 8, the domain is again left and right. You can see that it goes forever to the left, but to the right it stops at 4. So again, we have a problem where we have an inequality where all real numbers that are less than or equal to 4, and in this case, since it's the domain, it's the x, so we're going to say x is less than or equal to 4, okay? Now the range is how far high and low it goes. This arrow goes up forever, and this arrow will go down forever. Therefore, the range is all real numbers, okay? Now I want you to do number 9, and the hint for number 9 is that you're going to use the word between. Go ahead and do that right now. All right, now the domain, you can see, is how far to the left and to the right. This heart starts at -2, and then it goes all the way to 5. So that's the domain. The domain is between -2 and 5. Okay, so this again would be a compound inequality, and we're dealing with the domain, which is x. So we're going to say -2 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 5. All right, now the range is how far high and low it goes. It starts at -1 at the bottom and then reaches all the way to +4. So that's between -1 and 4. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, that means that the range is another compound inequality, which is -1 is less than or equal to y, which is less than or equal to 4. Now go ahead and write this down. Press pause if you need to, and I'm going to go to the next slide. All right, now in these word problems, what you're going to have to do is identify the independent dependent variable. We're going to graph it, and then you're going to identify the domain and range. Now I'm going to help you start this one off. So it says that a ball is kicked off the ground and it reaches a height of 50 feet. The ball was in the air for 10 seconds. Okay, so looking at this graph, we see that seconds is on the x-axis, so that has to be the independent variable. The dependent variable is always on the y-axis, which in this case is feet. Now here's the ball starting at 0, 0. What happens when you kick a ball? It goes up, and then it curves and it comes back down. Okay, now this right here would represent the path that the ball took. You can see that it ended at 10, all right, and the highest amount it went was 50. The lowest amount is going to be 0, and the amount of seconds it starts at is at 0. So the domain and range would look something like this. Now the domain would be how far to the left and to the right. So looking at the x-axis, this starts at 0, and then it's going to go all the way to 10. There's no arrows there, so we don't go further than that. So it's going to be a between problem. So this one's between 0 seconds and 10 seconds. The range is very similar because it's going to be a between. The lowest that this ball reaches is 0 feet because it's on the ground, and then the highest it reaches is 50. So the range is between 0 and 50 feet. Okay? Now for this one, it says you open up a checking account with $50. You will, with your new job, you are able to save $100 per week. Okay, so the independent variable and the dependent variable, go ahead and figure that out. All right, hopefully you got that right. So the independent variable is the x-axis, which is weeks. The dependent variable is the y-axis, which is the money. All right, now since this starts at 50, that means right in the beginning at 0, we have $50 in the account because that's when you started the account. All right. Now, if you were to add $100 after 1 week of working, if you were to add $100, that would put you at $150. You do that again, you'd be at $250. All right. You do it again, you'd be at $350. So this is going to be a line, and I am putting a little arrow on the end of this line, as you can see right here. So this is going to go up and to the left, or sorry, up and to the right forever. Go ahead and figure out what the domain and range is right now. All right, again, the domain is how far to the left and to the right. This person starts at $0 and then will go all the way to infinity dollars if he keeps saving his money. So that's why the domain is all real numbers that are greater or equal to 0. Okay? This could be represented as x is greater or equal to 0 weeks. Now the range is the money because that's how high and low. So the lowest amount of money he has in this graph is $50, and it shows that it's going to keep going up and up. So therefore, the range is all real numbers that are greater or equal to 50. So that's what it looks like, and this is going to be y is greater or equal to $50. Okay? Now this next one I want you to try totally on your own. So identify independent, dependent variable. Figure out what the graph is going to look like, and then tell me what the domain and range is. Go ahead and do that right now. All right, it says you have $200 in your, and you plan to spend $50 per week. All right, so here's $200. Oh, I'm sorry. The independent variable is weeks. The dependent variable is money. Here's your $200, and if you spend $50, you now have $150 after 1 week. If you spend another $50, you have $100. Another one, you have $50, and then another one, you have $0. Okay, so this line right here does not have arrows on it. So the domain would be from between 0 weeks and 4 weeks, because after that there's no more money. And then the range would be between 0 and $200, because you don't go less than $0 and you don't go more than $200. Okay. All right, guys, have a good one. I'll see you tomorrow.